Started. Welcome to the Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group. I am Corey Anderson, and I'll be your host for today. Go ahead and get started. This is our agenda. First of all, our welcome and general business, and then we'll also have a point for our member announcements. That'll be about 15 minutes or so. Then we'll hear from our meeting sponsor today, Routable, for about 10 minutes. And then our main presentation will be how to be a great NetSuite administrator, and that'll be presented by Audrey Grudel and Brian Schmidt of Bridgepoint Consulting, Bridgepoint is our consulting sponsor for today. Then we'll have 2024.1 highlights. I'll do a quick presentation on that at the end of the main presentation, and then we'll have our open forum, and we can go as long as we need to up until about noon Mountain Time. That's an opportunity for everybody to ask questions if you have challenges, and we can just, as a group, try and help each other out and solve some problems. And Mike Cackline on the board here will be hosting that portion for us. So first of all, I want to talk about membership to the user group. Membership is free. You register at RMNSUG.org. When you register, that ensures that you get notification of upcoming meetings and special events. It also gives you access to our LinkedIn forum. So if you are not a member, please sign up today. Where you can find us, we have a website, RMNSUG.org. We also have a YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search RMNSUG or Rocky Mountain NetSuite User Group. And then we have a LinkedIn group. So the purpose of our LinkedIn group is to share announcements. You can post job openings, or if you're looking for a job or a new role or something like that, you can use the LinkedIn forum for that information. We do keep it a private forum so that it doesn't get very spammy. I don't know if anybody here has seen like the primary NetSuite user group LinkedIn page, but there's just a lot of noise, and sometimes there's some good posts and some helpful things, but a lot of junk on there that we just don't want to have on our LinkedIn group, and that's why we keep it a private group. On our website, we do post all of our meeting recordings, and so all of the previous recordings, we have also the PowerPoint slides from all of our meetings are there. So you just go to rmnsug.org/posts, or once you go to the website, there is a little posts icon or a little posts link right there. You can click on that. And then once you get to that page, you can actually search by topic. And we have all of our meeting recordings for probably the last 7 or 8 years. I don't know how long we've been doing it, but they're all posted there. We've done a very wide range of topics around NetSuite. So if you're looking for help on something specific, like a primary topic in NetSuite, we've probably done it before. So you can go there and search for that and find all of our previous meeting recordings and slides. I'm going to take just a minute here to introduce the user group's board of directors. This is just to prove that we are in Colorado. We are in the Rocky Mountain area. We recently had a board retreat. We went snowshoeing up in the Winter Park area, and you can see it was a beautiful snowy day. So that's me right there in the red jacket. I'm Corey Anderson. I'm a principal at Stratos ERP Partners. Then we have Dana Larson, who is our treasurer. She's here in the blue coat. Then we have Peggy Evlev, our speaker chair, and she's from RSM US. She's here in the middle. Then we have our communications chair, Mike Cackline of Vertifor. He's in the back right here. And then our sponsorship and member chair, Margie Cominos of the PlantScan Corporation. She's here in the green jacket. So that's the board. This is the people that run the user group, and we are all volunteers. And we've been doing this for, I think Peggy is the newest board member, and I think she's been on the board for about 5 years now, maybe 4. I don't remember. But anyway, thank you to the board for everything that you do to keep this user group running smoothly and offering really valuable content to our membership. We have a special event coming up. We have our happy hour. This is actually going to be next week. So it's Thursday, the 28th from 5 to 8 p.m. It'll be in Arvada, and it's in the I think it's Old Town Arvada area. And what we do is we have free food, drinks, and networking. So this is free to anybody in the area that's a user group member. Again, membership is free. If you haven't signed up, just sign up and then you can RSVP for this. I will post a link to RSVP for this happy hour in the chat window. If you haven't RSVP'd and you're interested in coming, please sign up. Once you sign up, we'll send you an email with the specific address and location and details about the event. But again, that is coming up next Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m. Would love to see you there if you're in the Denver area.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
We have to give the numbers tomorrow for that. And so if you do plan to come, can you please sign up by tomorrow so that we order enough food?
Thank you for mentioning that, Dana.
Yeah, to that. So if y'all are interested in signing up for this on our RMNSUG website, you'll see a link called special events, I believe, up top, and that'll take you to the RSVP. Also, we have the space is limited per se, and that we need to know how many people there are per Dana's point. So if you do have any plus ones, please have them RSVP as well, so we know how many people are actually coming.
Yep,
I'll put
thank you.
That right now. You said you'd do it, Corey, but you got your hands full. So there we go.
You posted the link. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
So that'll link directly to in the chat window. That links directly to our special event page where you can RSVP. And so if you're planning on coming, please RSVP today. That'd be great. All right, so I'm going to take a moment here and pause for any member announcements. The member announcements are intended to be job openings that your company may have, or if you are looking for a NetSuite related job in any role that's related, that's the purpose of our announcements. So if you do have an announcement, please feel free to unmute yourself and make your announcement. If you don't want to unmute yourself, you can post your announcement in the chat window, and then you can also post it on our LinkedIn forum. So I'll go ahead and pause and see if anybody wants to make an announcement. And if you think of it later and you want to post in the chat window later, that's fine as well. So I'll wait just another minute. Any announcements from anybody? Okay, shy group today, no problem. If you think of something, post it in the chat window later on. We'll go ahead and move on. Evaluations, we send them out the same day as the event. Please take a few moments to let us know how we're doing. We read and act on the feedback from those evaluations. One of the most important sections that we look at is recommendations for future meeting topics. If you have any ideas of something that we haven't done, or if something that just interests you, please use that evaluation to let us know what you think we should do our future meetings on. So just a quick reminder, please use the same email to RSVP as the email that you receive the meeting invite. We try to maintain individual member records. The board, the user group has a production NetSuite account, and so we try to maintain individual member records, and cleaning up duplicates is kind of a pain. So if you received an invite to the meeting with the different email addresses, like if you received 2 different invites, please email rsvp@rmnsug.org, and we'll have the extra email addresses inactivated and provide the correct company name and which email should be inactivated. Meeting sponsorship. So our user group is supported by 2 levels of sponsorship. Membership to the user group is free, as I mentioned before. The cost of our meetings is supported by 2 levels of sponsorship. We have Suite App sponsors and consulting sponsors. Suite App sponsors must be available through suiteapp.com. Consulting sponsors must offer NetSuite consulting services and have certified NetSuite consultants on staff. If you or your company is interested in learning more about our sponsorship opportunities, you can go to our website, rmnsug.org/sponsorship. or just go to the website and click on the sponsorship link in the menu. CPE credits. We are now offering CPE credits again for our meetings. Big thank you to RSM for hosting our CPE credits. So there will be polling questions throughout the meeting that you must answer to be eligible for the credits. You must have also registered for the Zoom meeting with your first and last name and your email address. If you, for some reason, when you registered for the Zoom meeting today, did not put in your full first name and last name, you can email info@rmnsug.org afterwards and let us know so that we can make that correction. Ideally, we don't want to have to do that. So when you register, please make sure, if you're interested in the CPE credits, register with your full first name, last name, and email address. And so a huge thank you again to Peggy and RSM US for sponsoring our CPE credits. Upcoming events, upcoming meetings. So there's a quick question. So CPE credits. CPE stands for Continuing Professional Education, I think. And if you are an accountant or a CPA, you are required to obtain a certain number of CPE credits every year to maintain your CPA status. There are some companies that also require their employees to get a certain number of CPE credits for continuing education on an annual basis. And so that's what that's for, Samuel, in case you didn't know. So thanks for asking. Okay, upcoming meetings. April this year, we have a special event. It is going to be on intercompany transactions and eliminations. This will be a 1-hour meeting, and it'll be presented by Peggy from RSM. We will have an RSVP information coming out for that, and we will offer CPE credits for that meeting as well. In May this year, we're coming back to our workflows meeting, also known as SuiteFlow. July is our NetSuite Basics, also known as NetSuite 101, and I believe our board member Dana Larson will be presenting that one. September this year, customizing NetSuite. That'll be me presenting that one, and we've done it a couple of times, and it's a great way to learn about all the different customizations you can do in NetSuite. And then in November, we'll be doing scripting for non-scripters, and then we'll also have our Suite World update. And the scripting for non-scripters, I believe, is going to be presented by our board member, Mike Cackline, who is a developer and a NetSuite genius. Okay, real quick, thank you to our consulting sponsor, Bridgepoint Consulting. I'm going to take a quick minute here to tell you about Bridgepoint. Bridgepoint Consulting is a leading enterprise solution delivery firm providing cloud solutions that enable organizations to elevate, transform, and grow their business. They offer expert NetSuite guidance throughout all stages of an implementation, including solution design, configuration, customization, optimization, and managed services. They also offer additional services within their financial consulting and risk and compliance practice. So again, thank you, Bridgepoint Consulting, for sponsoring our meeting today. And thank you for, in advance, the presentation that you will be giving us a little bit later here. Also, I'd like to say thank you to our Suite App sponsor today. Our Suite App sponsor is Routable. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John from Routable to spend a few minutes telling us about Routable and how they can help you with your AP automation. So I'll go ahead and
Thanks,
stop.
Corey.
Yep, and I'll turn it over to you, John.
Also, I don't know how you managed to say RMSNUG so smoothly every time. I was like, I've been working on this for a week. I can't do it. So I just started doing anagrams of it. Do you guys have anagrams of, like, the best thing I could come up with was like Mr. Guns, but like I need to spend a lot more time at the gym before we can do Mr. Guns.
Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about it. I've been doing it for so many years now. It just flows. But it was challenging at first. It was challenging.
All right, well, feel free to use, or Mr. Snug. That's the other one that I got.
Mr. Snug, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Makes you feel nice and warm and fuzzy as an accounting professional. Great to meet everybody. My name is John. I'm from Routable. Routable is AP Automation Solved. And I'm going to do kind of a 101 / kind of 201 level course very briefly about what AP automation is, but just a few things before we get started. grab your mobile phones, take a photo, screenshot of that QR code. I think Caroline is also going to post it in the chat, but we will give away a $100 Amazon gift card today during the course of this thing for everybody who signs up for the giveaway. Okay, so Routable. AP automation solve. Routable is the fastest and most efficient way to do AP automation. We pride ourselves on three major things, which is delivering faster payments for less. The second being we work the way you work. So a lot of folks have like very customized workflows, or their businesses are very unique, and they need their AP automation software to conform to the way that they work. We built Routable that way. And then the last one is compliance that's built in with how things go. So that's kind of some of the main three value points of Routable, but also just a few other components here is that we have the fastest two-way sync with NetSuite. So this ends up being a big deal because a lot of other AP automation softwares actually have a lot of sync errors. Last quarter, we were at 99.93%, I think, with regards to that's how few sync errors we have. That was our uptime, so to speak. Our sync errors and our speed of sync is faster than anyone. We also do AI-powered invoice capture, so we make sure to automate all of that process as well. It's available internationally in terms of paying out from the US to anywhere, essentially anywhere in the world. But another big thing is syncing standard fields and custom fields. So we know that's a big deal with why people buy NetSuite is for all that customization work. So we reflect that customization within people's AP workflows. And that ends up being a really big win for a lot of our customers that have done that customization. And then just thinking about like, where does Routable fit in the AP automation ecosystem for a second, which is we really are best for people who are graduating from Bill.com. So they've gone off QuickBooks, they're moving into NetSuite for those reasons, and all the reasons that they're leaving QuickBooks for the small business and moving into more of a large small business or a medium-sized businesses are all the same ways that essentially Routable is able to help them continue to grow as a business. These results, 25% less time spent on reconciliation, 80% reduction in tedious AP tasks, and 40% reduction in the cost of bill payments. These are all things that come with Routable. Our numbers are a little better than other AP folks, but a lot of the lift you'll get, honestly, is just from moving from manual tasks to AP automation at all. That's really a big move forward. Okay, so what's AP automation? And then I'll give you a quick look at Routable and maybe even have a minute or two for questions. Okay, so when you think about AP automation, we think about it like essentially almost like an assembly line. And I'll use a procure-to-pay process as an example of workflows that many finance teams are using and executing, right? So a typical workflow here is going to be, this workflow. You receive an invoice, process, code it, got to get approved, pay, right? Okay, so this workflow is built out of making sure that we have good compliance and controls, and how we're moving money through the system and how we're accounting for things. But there's a bunch of steps along the way. And if you do it manually, what you have is you or somebody on your team receiving that invoice, processing that invoice, right? You lecturing. So this is you lecturing somebody to go get that invoice from the vendor because you need to close or whatever else it might be, right? And then every single one of these steps is manual, many of them, if you're still running a manual process, coding it, approving it, again, more lecturing and nagging people to try to get their bill approval in, so on and so forth, all the way down the line. But you don't just have that with one bill, right? You have that with bill after bill after bill after bill after bill after bill. So this is what the AP automation process kind of starts to have a promise now. And instead, the automation promise is that essentially as much of this that can happen in the cloud with computers, and then you just have to lecture the cloud. That's us. You just lecture us. You just nag us. Hey, what's going on with this thing, right? So our job here is to bring as much automation and take the manual process out of as much as this as possible, while still providing accuracy, compliance controls, making sure that you're only paying the bills you're supposed to pay, making sure that they're paid on time, making sure that you're maximizing your cash flow, all of those things. So that is the automation promise that AP automation in general can bring, and that already exists. Now, Routable already automates a substantial portion of this process. There are still a few examples of well, let me talk about a few of them, like receiving the invoice again. Okay, so we do like AI OCR. The accuracy is extremely high, right? We can automate that. Getting the bill sent to the right approver automatically because it meets certain approval rules. Automatically happens, goes, negs that approver on your behalf, right? Those things. Paying the bill can be scheduled and automatically sent out. And then the reconciliation, it comes in and matches within NetSuite automatically. Even on the audit side, you can provide a login to your auditor, and they can just go and look at any track of how a bill moves through without even bothering you, right? So all of those things, many of those things are automated. There are a few places where there isn't full automation yet that we see, like, potentially with AI and stuff as we are making progress into the future, are even things like potentially approving bills. So that bills under certain amounts that you set rules for, we can match and see if it looks like it's right compared to all the data that we have historically. And maybe you skip those bill approval processes at a much higher level than you would. Maybe currently it's only $1,000 or something, but it could be much higher because we can do that in an automated way. So those are things that are to come with the automation of moving through AP automation. Okay, so a few signs that you need AP automation. Large payment volumes. So when you're into the hundreds of payments a month, then it starts to be really cumbersome and expensive per person. It's actually about $10 to manually process an invoice through payment. More or less, depending on how complicated those things are. If you're in like manufacturing and you're doing PO matching manually, that goes way above $10. But if you think about that from a manpower cost, $10 per invoice starts to matter. There's lack of visibility into the invoice processing. So that's as the invoice moves through the system, right? People are emailing you, hey, how come this vendor hasn't been paid yet? That kind of thing. If you need visibility into that process and want to get rid of that because you've got these large payment volumes, that's a sign of AP automation. Inefficiencies due to manual work, which we've talked about. Unhappy vendors because they're not getting paid on time. This is especially critical for vendors that or for businesses that rely on their vendors in an outsized way. So not like, hey, Routable has a, for example, a software vendor or something, and if we pay them 15 days late, it's fine. But this is more like, no. This is a person who is, delivering design for us. And if they don't get paid on time, they're going to stop delivering products, right? So this is especially for businesses in that world, AP automation matters a lot. And then the last one is costly and slow international payments. So if any of your customers have, or if you have international payments, I guarantee you're getting screwed by your bank, or you're getting screwed by your other AP automation vendor on what your FX rates are and the transaction costs associated with sending money internationally. And it ends up being also a highly manual process because usually this requires stepping outside of automation to do a manual wire process or something like that with a banking partner specifically. All that stuff can happen within your AP automation workflow. Okay, so let's look at it in action. I'm actually going to go, instead of looking at like a typical flow process. Oh, there we go. Wait, one more. I'm going to go before the invoice process and just give you a quick look into how you actually onboard a vendor through an automated process. Okay, so this is inside our UI. See, it's a little bit easier to use than NetSuite, as much as we love NetSuite. This is just an example of, for example, you can get your inbox here, and I will give you a 5-second view of what it looks like to see a bill come in and get invoiced and coded and all of those things. So this is a bill that just gets uploaded through an inbox, through the API. We can sync it from NetSuite. Any of those things, we can grab that bill, and you'll see that it's able to pull every single line item directly from that bill. Can either summarize them or bring them individually, and then you can code them. And the thing that Routable does that I think is a big customer value that we figured out from spending a lot of time with our customers was that this is the reflection of custom fields and dimensions, that we bring that into and reflect your NetSuite configuration so that you can code that way, right? We'll copy all the information, we'll bring it in, and then we'll let you make decisions on, oh, we're going to allow the vendor to choose how to be paid. Nope, we're only going to do it via bank transfer. You can schedule the bill to be paid, and then it automatically has approval rules applied, right? This one goes to Alan Wilson. And if you're curious, why is this one going to Alan Wilson? Well, somebody set up an approval rule that says anything between $0 and $1,000 goes to Alan. So that's why that one's going to Alan. And then Alan's going to get an email, and that one's going to be ready to go. Okay, I'm going to get out of this and then go to the company piece. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a vendor. See, I even started creating, look, we've got these vendors in. It's going to automatically look up to see if you have any vendors in NetSuite. This is attached to our NetSuite instance, but we will make a new vendor. Am I capitalizing this correctly, Corey? Is that how you do it? Or are you all caps?
We usually do all caps, but it's RMNS UG.
Did I do that?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, cool. Okay, so I'm gonna create a vendor. And are you a business or an individual? You're a business, right?
Business.
So if you were an individual, we would change what kind of tax documents and things like that we need to collect from the receiver. You can actually have multiple names so that they reflect different aspects. We know that a bunch of companies will actually have if a vendor works in different parts of the business or things like that, you can have a different legal entity name and a vendor NetSuite vendor profile name. This will then also, depending on the country that you're in, it will convert for the correct currency or the correct tax documents. I'm just going to leave you in the United States, and then I'm going to add a contact, and I'm going to say that you're Corey. I'm just going to make you go to Mr. Guns because I'm not going to spell that incorrectly again. We'll validate on the phone number too, so to see whether it's valid. So you'll see, oh, that's not actually a valid phone number. They know that that's a fake phone number. I'm giving you a 1-800 number. I hope you like that. Oh, I even put it in for too long. And now that's pretty much it. You don't have to chase this vendor. You don't have to collect PII over email that could eventually be hacked or leaked. You don't have to collect tax documents. You don't have to nag on all of those things. So we're just going to go ahead and say vendor's choice for this one, and then we're going to invite that vendor. Now, Corey is going to, let me go back to the sandbox here. He's going to get an email that's branded for the business's colors, right? It's not a routable email. It's not a, hey, sign up for routable. It's an email. He's going to be registered to be paid. And he's going to get a very easy, it's going to work on his mobile phone, whatever else it might be. Receive payments from you. And then it's going to have the ability to correct those phone numbers or save the. And then here we got the W-9. We're going to do the business legal name. Right. So this is going to confirm all of this stuff. Going to set up his corporation status. So let's just say it's a S Corp. No, let's say it's an LLC. Going to get their EIN, mailing address, and this is going to also validate on, all the Google validation, and then they can just sign electronically so that you don't have to actually upload a file. That way, it just makes it incredibly fast for a vendor to be onboarded. And then they can connect their bank account automatically. So now, again, you've got protected bank account numbers that are linked and for this person to be paid. All right, select bank account. You won't be able to see this for a second because, and I'm actually just going to hop back into Routable and show you one of the vendors. So I'll search for. See this vendor, I've started going through the process and they didn't finish it. So you can see, oh, look, I don't have their email address, payment method, or tax information because they hadn't finished the process. And then within one click, you can have them, send it back to them like, hey, we need your information. And I'll go to a vendor that has filled out everything correctly. So like ABC Beverage Company, you'll see then, oh, we've got all their vendor info. We've got their bank account number. It's masked only for people with high levels of permissions are able to see it. You can see their tax documents. You can see that this person's W-9 is here. You can download a copy of it if you need to. And now you're ready to go for tax season as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the demo there for a second. And then just finish up here with customer showcase real quickly. So Mothership is one of those examples of a customer who came to us. They have a lot of short haul freight technology company, or they're a short haul freight technology company, but they have a lot of logistics companies that are, truckers essentially, that are a network of transportation carriers, and they deliver palletized freight across the US. They were dealing with lots of carriers that they had to pay very quickly. They needed automation, lower cost, and faster payments. Bill.com did not integrate well with NetSuite, and their implementation required custom field support. We brought all that, and within 2 weeks, they were implemented, making payments in their third week. And their customers were actually able to be paid much, much faster as a result, which allowed them to have a higher retention of those truckers that were on the platform. It also brought down their costs substantially because they were able to pay people same day, next day, 2-day, all for dimes instead of dollars, which it was with some of our competitors. Okay, so I think I am at my time. There's that QR code again, or you can see the link in the chat window. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you, Radible, for sponsoring our meeting today. So let's go ahead and move on at this point. We'll turn it over to our main presenters, Audrey Grudel and Brian Schmidt from Bridgepoint Consulting. I'll let you two take it from there. And then just a reminder, I will be interrupting politely if I can every once in a while, and we're going to put in some polling questions for our CPE credits. And so this is officially the beginning of our CPE portion of our meeting. I'll go ahead and let you guys take it over. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. And just to confirm, everyone can see my screen okay? The first slide of the presentation here?
Yep,
Yep,
you're
that
good.
looks good to me. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Excited to be able to present on how to be a great NetSuite administrator. We had some fun putting this presentation together, and hope you all get a lot of value out of the next couple of hours here. All right, before we get started, I'd just like to introduce myself and Audrey. So I am Brian Schmidt. I'm a manager here at Bridgepoint Consulting. In our cloud solutions practice, we have a cloud solutions practice that focuses on all sorts of cloud-based technology, anything from Oracle ERP and HCM to, of course, our NetSuite practice that Audrey and I are in. I've been in this space for around 6 years, have experience in both Oracle Fusion, ERP, and mainly NetSuite over the past handful of years. I've focused most of my time on transformational business projects, NetSuite implementations, usually end-to-end NetSuite implementations, and all sorts of industries with a focus on software and services mainly. I come from a finance background, went to business school at Ohio State, and I am located here in downtown Denver. And I'll introduce Audrey for the team. So Audrey's a senior manager in our cloud solutions practice. Audrey's been in the consulting space for 10 plus years and comes from a public accounting background. Audrey, like myself, has experience in software and services verticals, but also others such as government, retail, nonprofit, oil and gas, banking, etc. Audrey also comes from a finance and accounting background, including a master's degree in accounting from University of Northern Colorado, and also based here in Denver, near downtown. Okay, so let's jump into our agenda for today. We are going to go through this presentation in different sections. And we're going to cover different content in each, of course. So the first thing we'd like to go through is maximizing your investment through your NetSuite administrator function and how to get the most bang for your buck. We'll then talk about the role of the NetSuite administrator at a pretty high level. What are they really there to do, and how can we ensure that the admin is most effective for the business? We'll talk about key functions of the NetSuite admin and some best practices. What are they really doing, and some quick wins to have your admins be performing in the system. We'll then talk about issue management and some ticket management and monitoring of the system, ways to support your end users. We'll also talk about continuous learning and professional development. And we'll finish today with tips and tricks for NetSuite admins and hopefully give some real practical examples of tools you could start using today to add value, right after we get off this call in your use of your NetSuite environment. And so we'll start kind of philosophical, high level, kind of strategic. What does the role look like? And we'll kind of keep building more and more into the system itself as we go through this presentation. So let's get started. First section here is maximizing your investments through the administrator function. And I want to cover 3 sections here. So optimizing your NetSuite license costs, how we want to do that, thinking about user efficiency, and then just continuous improvement in your NetSuite environment. So the first one here, optimizing NetSuite without affecting your license costs. A lot of the topics we're going to cover today don't have to do with any sort of additional purchases or procurement of any other, tools, softwares, third-party apps. It's really about getting the most out of the system you currently have. And there's a couple ways that a strong admin can think about doing this. We know that when you get into NetSuite, onboard onto the platform, maybe go through an implementation, there are certain settings and features that are turned on when you first implement that might just sit there untouched for long periods of time. So this is an evaluation by the admin of what functionality are we using today, and also what functionality is available to us today that we're not using. There could be some really beneficial features, or even things like your accounting preferences or system preferences, general preferences, other ways in the system to just toggle something on and off, or make adjustments to the overall settings of the system that could add a lot of value to end users quickly. And obviously that comes with no additional cost. These, whatever SKU your company may have purchased comes with a whole bunch of functionality. And it's always worth the admin exploring what hasn't been utilized yet. We see some environments where there's certain things that aren't turned on that just, perhaps end users or even admins assume that they didn't have access to, but would have gone a long way in, introducing new functional or business processes to end users. So a good idea for admins to kind of keep a close tab on what's being utilized and what could be turned on and implemented in the future to add value with what you currently have in your environment. Another note here, we all know NetSuite performs their semi-annual releases, so that's another way that we're gaining functionality and perhaps able to leverage new tools without any sort of impact on costs, but can still have material impact on job efficiency and day-to-day use of the system. Building on top of optimizing just by knowing system preferences and settings and features, wanted to talk about user efficiency. So we think of an admin role, it's not necessarily limited to controlling or managing the roles in the system and maintaining permissions for those roles and administering access to the system. Strong admin, a strong admin in general is thinking about user efficiency and ways for the team members to save time in their day-to-day tasks. Really important for end user buy-in to have streamlined processes and automations that just simply make their job easier. This isn't something that just happens during implementation. We really want an admin to be evaluating user efficiency and overall user experience on a recurring basis, right? So you might establish certain processes during implementation, but it's a good idea to revisit these and ensure the user experience is strong on a periodic basis. Whether that means, meeting with a certain set of team members quarterly, walk through what they're doing day to day in the system and ensure that there's no bottlenecks or areas that you could really improve and help them get through their tasks in a more timely manner. And this could be just simple configurations or modifications to the current process. It could be as complex as a total, process revamp. But there are probably some quick wins for your end users that, you as an admin can implement pretty quickly and make a big difference and add value to your end users and ultimately the business as well. So point being here that, it's another high level role of an admin to think about all of their users' experience and use of the system. It can really be a full-time role with that constant evaluation cycle. So to sum things up here for adding value without adding cost, it's really all about continuous improvement. So like I said, after that dust settles from the original implementation, immediately you can start to map out and identify ways to optimize the system and identify those improvement opportunities, maintaining a roadmap of upcoming projects or goals for the system, and making sure that those goals and objectives align with the goals of the business. Really important here. And then, like we said in that first slide, continue to identify ways that you're underutilizing your system. There are multiple, features and pieces of functionality that we see underutilized, and perhaps they're just simply, unknown to admins or user teams. And taking time to explore those and identifying, things that can make a difference can go a really long way. So just constantly thinking about continuous improvement with the environment you have, again, without adding any additional costs. I'm going to jump into this next section here, which is in regard to understanding the role of a NetSuite admin. And we kind of threw this into 3 buckets. So we want to talk about the role throughout the implementation, assuming you have the luxury of having an in-house admin during an implementation and not post implementation. So we want to talk about the role during that implementation project. And then I want to talk about ongoing support and maintenance, and then also optimization and enhancements for the system. So the first one here is a role, the admin's role throughout an implementation. Obviously a critical part of implementing NetSuite, getting set up on the system. It's really important for the admin to help align the system build with organizational goals and the goals of the business. The NetSuite admin can act as that bridge between internal stakeholders and perhaps your consulting partner or your implementation team, and perhaps even be the middle person between technical teams and end users, right? We want the admin to be fully engaged in all elements of the implementation, so they really understand not the what of what's being built, but the why, right? We want to have intention in the admin's role in the implementation and how they're contributing. Of course, if there's a NetSuite admin involved in implementation, it could be hugely beneficial for them to help with coordination and communication with both your consulting partner as well as any third parties involved. Some other implementation responsibilities that come to mind could be understanding your exact licensing, right? What did the organization buy? What are you actually implementing, or against what SKUs you bought? What might be phase 1 versus a phase 2 item as you implement? Helping to translate business requirements into system config. Obviously, your consulting partner is going to have a huge focus in that area, but the NetSuite admin, being on the internal team, can be a huge advocate for different teams throughout the business in what they need the system to do and why, and help make sure that the system build is appropriate and adding value in the right ways. The admin can help with data migration efforts as well. right? Moving off of legacy systems, helping to clean up data and make sure what's going to NetSuite is really, as clean as possible. Conducting user training sessions. So again, your implementing partner might be responsible for some training, but we want that admin to also be someone who's helping to train new users and continuously train existing users in NetSuite. One other thing that I thought was important to mention here is, an experienced NetSuite admin can also challenge the build of the system, right? So you might have a consulting partner that's implementing and has made certain decisions, and we want there to be a certain level of collaboration and partnership between that internal admin and third-party teams to make sure that the decisions being made are truly best for the business. And the admin can play that role of, constructively questioning the build and making sure that everything's moving in the right direction. And that's the admin role throughout implementations. The next section here is what I want to categorize as the reactive role of an admin. So ongoing support and maintenance, obviously an essential function of an administrator. We all know an admin can serve as a point of contact for addressing user concerns and technical issues, right? They have the most familiarity with the system and they're there to help when issues arise. And responsive maintenance and support can really help make sure the business and day-to-day functions stay on track. We don't want there to be interrupted operations day-to-day. And so there's a reactive element here to make sure that when things come up, there's a clear resolution path and the NetSuite administrator really owns it. One other note here is, and we're going to go into some issue resolution, issue management, and even ticketing later in this presentation. So we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later. One other thing to note here is, as part of supporting your own user base, as a NetSuite admin, you might own the NetSuite system and have familiarity with other third-party platforms. But sometimes when third parties are involved, we see a lack of maintained relationship with those third parties. So a message here is don't wait to establish a relationship with your third-party support teams until problems arise, right? If you have a third-party application that's integrated with NetSuite, know who your go-to is on that third-party support team prior to issues coming about, so that when something does come up, you have a point person, or at least what your support channel looks like, versus spinning your wheels and spending a few days trying to figure out where you need to go for help if you can't solution yourself because it does involve a third-party product. Just a note there, something that we've seen in the past is it's a good idea to maintain those relationships so that you have them at your disposal when issues arise. Okay, so that's the reactive piece of the NetSuite admin. This next slide, I want to focus on the proactive piece of the NetSuite admin. So here we're talking about optimization and enhancements. And this goes back to our continuous improvement and some of the discussion on user efficiency that I mentioned earlier. But this is really constantly evaluating your system, figuring out ways to optimize and enhance everything that users are doing to make their day-to-day lives easier. And the NetSuite admin should really be the one leading those initiatives. They should be the ones being proactive, going in and evaluating your functional and business processes to make sure that they still make sense and that change isn't needed. And also evaluating the processes and saying, hey, if we shuffle this around a little bit, we can add a lot of efficiency and value for the end users. We want the NetSuite admin to be constantly thinking about how they can improve the day-to-day. And also just optimizing to align with evolving business requirements, right? Businesses evolve and change over time. requirements might change, and assuming that current processes or functionality always align is not the right assumption. So kind of having a pulse check on the way things are operating in the system and implementing change when needed is really important. Okay. So again, we have role and implementation, we have the reactive piece of the admin, and then this proactive piece of the admin. And I think, again, sometimes the reactive piece seems to be the focus of what we think of when we think of a NetSuite admin, but the most value that you get from a NetSuite admin is really a combination of both the reactive elements and this proactive element as well. That's where you really see the value.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to interrupt you real quick, and we'll go ahead and launch our first polling question.
Excellent.
So I'm going to launch that right now. If you're interested in CPE credits, this is the first poll of the meeting. So let me get this brought up. So the poll should be visible on your screen. We'll wait for about a minute for everybody that is interested in CPE to answer the poll. About 20 seconds left. All right, we're going to go ahead and end the poll. And I'll turn it back over to you, Brian. Thank you.
Excellent. Can you all still hear?
We can't. Yeah, we can hear you. Well, try again, maybe.
Yeah, Brian, your audio
Hear me
was
okay?
kind of going in and out at times.
Try again.
Hey team, can you also hear me okay?
Yep, you're good. If you can hear us.
Okay, one more time here. Just confirmation you guys can hear me. I think my audio is cut down for a second.
Yep, can hear you now.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I'm getting confirmation from Audrey that you can hear me, so I'm gonna proceed through here. Sorry about that. Well, technical issue. If at any point my audio is cutting out or anything like that, please let me know. Okay, so moving along here. Our next section of the presentation is regarding key functions and best practices of the NetSuite admin. So this is more related to system use and things you can do in system as an admin to enhance, user experience and processes and overall day-to-day functions. So a couple of things I want to cover here. Data integrity, roles and access. I want to talk about reports and searches. We all know NetSuite, extremely powerful tool in that regard. I'd like to speak about dashboards, sandbox management, and also just overall system health and performance. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so data integrity. It's really important for the admin to focus on this and think about data integrity in the system because it really drives a lot of downstream functions, reporting, etc. Right? It's a foundational element to any ERP, the data you put into it. And so we want there to be strong data integrity throughout the system. And it's really the role of the admin to ensure that there's adherence to data governance policies, and that the data going into the system is clean, coming from the right sources, etc. That NetSuite admin is probably the only person that has oversight into all the different types of data going into the system, right? A user might focus in a specific area on certain transaction types or records, but the admin has visibility into all of it. So ensuring that your system's data is clean gives it much more value. And it really is only as valuable as its integrity and its accuracy. If we don't have that, the data is not as meaningful and doesn't drive as much value for end users and reporting and for the business overall. A couple of things a NetSuite admin can do to ensure the data going into the system is clean is, once again, evaluating sources of data entry on a regular basis. Leveraging things like duplicate detection. Maintaining clean master data.
Companies calling in, people calling in.
Maintaining clean lists of values for fields on records. Right. So these are some things that we want the admin to always be taking a look at. Make sure that your segment lists make sense. Make sure that your list of values for custom fields makes sense. Think about mandating fields on certain records to make sure the right data is being captured at the right time. We don't want data to be missed, especially essential data that could be leveraged in reporting later on. We don't want that to be missed just because something wasn't mandatory on a record, or the user didn't know that they needed to enter a certain data point or fill in certain information. We want the admin to be thinking about these things really across the business and across the system. And the cleanliness of data obviously goes beyond the implementation, right? There might be multiple sources of data going into the system once it's fully implemented. Could be through integration. And if that's the case, make sure field mappings and data points flowing back and forth across systems make sense over time. Make sure they're being captured in an organized manner. If data is getting into the system via, the UI or more manual entry, make sure those processes are efficient and, well thought out for end users. So the right data is going into the system at the right time, and that overall system data is not getting convoluted. I think we've probably all seen examples where your ERP gets incredibly clustered over time with all sorts of data going into the system. We want there to be intention behind data that gets entered into the NetSuite. And so it's really the role of the admin to evaluate and monitor these processes and make sure the data is kept clean. And also, don't assume as an admin the data is going in, that the data that is going in is good, right? Check it. Go in and check it. Keep close tabs on data and what's being entered into the system. Conduct regular audits. Try to rectify data inconsistencies. And ultimately, to help with everything that I've mentioned, provide training for your end users on data entry best practices. And make sure that all the fields and records going into the system are adding value and appropriate for business processes. So a huge piece of the admin role here with data in the system. Next thing I'd like to speak to is our roles and access. And so this is probably one of the biggest given of an admin, and really the NetSuite admin is one of the only individuals that should be maintaining and managing roles and access. We don't want to give those privileges to many people, and the admin can play a big part here. So think about the way you're managing your roles and defining permissions within those roles. It's crucial for separation of duties. It's crucial for maintaining internal controls and security in the system. As we all know, roles are often customized in NetSuite, and there's a lot you can do with them. in regard to permissions and toggling settings on and off and restrictions that you can establish on custom roles. Don't assume that the custom roles that were set up during implementation are perfect necessarily as the business changes and evolves or as new roles are added to the system. So take a look at your roles list. Make sure that the right roles align to the right individuals on the org chart and that the roles are built to best help individuals do their jobs, right? We want there to be thought put into the permissions that folks have in the system. And we also want those permissions, we want to make sure that they don't interfere with, what that role has to perform day to day in the system. Perhaps consider adding permissions if it makes sense to help a process move along more smoothly, or removing permissions if a certain individual or role has perhaps too much access to certain things in the system that they really don't need to do their job. So conducting those periodic reviews. This is another thing we could see an admin doing quarterly. Take a look at your custom roles list, make sure it makes sense. On roles and access, just a couple of snippets here I wanted to talk about. So this is just a quick example of a custom role. And there's a lot of things to think about here. In this presentation, we're not going to go through role configuration, but I just wanted to highlight the importance of looking at overall controls you're building out on your custom roles and some of the elements to the custom, role records. Right, things as simple as your subsidiary restrictions. Or at the bottom here, you have all these sub tabs. As an admin, you should be intimately familiar with all these sub tabs and how they control what roles can do in the system. So things like our permissions, of course, that's the most straightforward one. Evaluate what transactions, reports, and lists they have access to. Most roles don't need many setup permissions, but make sure if one does that they do have those. Or if you have a high level of customization and custom records in the system, be familiar with the permissions in regard to custom records as well in all of these different categories. And then it is the job of the admin to enforce restrictions on these roles, perhaps default custom forms per role, establish a default dashboard on these roles. So the point here is really as an admin, you have full control over these roles, and that really drives how end users interact with your NetSuite environment. So you want to put a lot of thought into it. On the right side here, you'll just see a little bubble of some custom role examples. So you want to give them a clear name and make sure that the role aligns with your actual org chart in the business. One thing to call out is that a couple of things to call out here. Role assignment should be very intentional. And there might be a custom role that could apply to multiple individuals within your organization, and perhaps even multiple individuals that have different job titles. We don't want to create 100 custom roles just because we have 100 different job titles. We want this list to be well thought out, consolidated, and easy to maintain on an ongoing basis. And then second note I wanted to mention here is important to try to align each end user with a single NetSuite role that aligns with exactly what their job function is. There could be some serious gaps in internal controls and compliance and system security when you assign specific individuals more than one role. And it is really the job of the admin to think about access to the system, what roles am I providing, and what does that allow them to do and see within the NetSuite environment. All right, moving along here. Reports and searches. So as I mentioned earlier, I think we all know this is one of the most powerful functions of NetSuite. There's some really, really valuable tools here. And we want the admin to be very close to save, search, build, report building, and customization. for those reports throughout the system. Some of the custom reporting and searches can truly empower users, right? Allow them to extract the data they need to make decisions or move certain business processes along. And the NetSuite admin should really have oversight as to all of the custom reporting that goes into the system. Often we see NetSuite environments get, again, cluttered with many custom, save searches or many different versions of custom reports. The admin should try to analyze these and make sure that the custom reports truly all make sense. Perhaps, 10 different end users created their own custom report that could just be one single report in the system that they all have access to, with some really great filtering or something like that. So we don't want to build up these lists of customized reports and searches that are, hundreds of items long or thousands long throughout years of using NetSuite. We want to have clear, concise lists and reporting, and it's really on the admin to maintain that and make sure that what's being built out and customized is most effective. Some other notes here. Think about ways in which you can automate reporting. NetSuite has some really powerful report scheduling capabilities. You can save someone 5 minutes from logging into NetSuite and seeking out a specific report that they know they need on a weekly cycle. An admin can go in and help them automate that, right? Deliver it to the right individual on cadence that makes sense for them, and save them 10 minutes in their day-to-day tasks. Consider training your users on report creation and how you can customize. The possibilities with save searches and really, custom report building are seemingly endless, and empowering your users to know how to leverage these and build out their own reports can really help them gain insights, understand different data going into the system, and add value to their processes. And I think another important piece here is ensuring that the data being presented in reports is clean, it's concise, it's adding value. You want there to be report maintenance throughout your NetSuite environment. So a little bit more on reports and searches. Just have a couple of examples here. So on the left side, just a simple save search. As an admin, you should be able to go in and understand how, the power of building criteria into save searches, and also training your users on using that element to a save search. Of course, understanding how to build out the right results columns in something like a save search, and also knowing that you're not just limited to selecting fields from drop downs in save searches. Save searches can become infinitely more powerful when you start to utilize things like formulas in your results of save searches. And again, not going into training on how to do that today, but as a NetSuite admin, consider how you can really enhance something as simple as a save search with building formula into the results that are displayed in that search. I would say don't undermine things like highlighting and the filtering on reports, right? It can really enhance user experience. I think, especially things like highlighting, often overlooked, but can really add value to call out, if you have a search that has hundreds of results or lines, adding something that quickly calls out things that might need, action. It can be great for user experience and just add more value to the save search. And then things like filtering. We want save searches to be dynamic in nature and not stagnant. And filtering is a great way to add power to them. And then, of course, think about the audience for each of your save searches, roles that have access to them. And then, as I mentioned, think about automating email delivery of save search results and different things you can do there. On the report builder side, we want to make sure the admin is familiar with how to edit columns on reports and add columns and group columns together. as well as filtering and sorting reports. On the financial report builder side, one thing that we see often overlooked is the ability to edit the layout on reports. So this is just a quick example of a customization we often see, adding that reported EBITDA line to a financial report. You're not limited to the layout that comes out of the box in NetSuite. That can be manipulated, and it's good for the admin to know how to do those things. Okay.
Brian, I'm going to go ahead and
All
interrupt
right,
right here.
I'm going to talk about
for-
dashboards here, and I think we're going to pause for another poll.
Yep, that's right. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pop up another poll. So hang on just 1 second here. If you're interested in CPE credits, here's the next polling question. And it should be launched now. So CPE credits, the poll is up. About 30 seconds left for CPE credit poll. And we'll go ahead and end the poll now for CPE credits.
Okay. So
Thanks,
we're going
Brian.
to continue through here. I want to pick up where we left off at dashboards. So dashboards, obviously another really powerful capability in NetSuite, offer visual representations of KPIs and metrics within the system. The NetSuite admin can try to optimize these, make them role specific, right? Customize dashboards, add relevant reporting. Think about what you're including on your reminders, portlets. Give the end users quick links and shortcuts to follow from their dashboard to make their navigation of the system easier. These are all good things for the admin to think about. We think, in general, and we've seen how much dynamic dashboards can help with user adoption, user engagement, right? Having a really cool, well thought out dashboard for somebody when they log into the system every day can really make the look and feel of NetSuite better. We want that landing page in NetSuite, that home dashboard, to be kind of a one-stop shop for everything they're doing in the system. So think about maintaining, customizing dashboards. And here's an example, just a couple things to call out here. So again, things like your reminders portlet, top left there, give some quick links and insights. NetSuite comes with out-of-the-box reminders, but you can also align these to save searches in the system. Think about what you can put here on custom dashboards that can really enhance insights as to what needs action in the system, right? Like examples here, bills to pay or things to approve. That's a really good way to keep a read on what the user needs to do and take action on in the system. And as we know, the reminders portlet, they're links. So it's a quick way to navigate to those places in the system to take those actions as well. Navigation portlet, right? Shortcuts to navigate around the system. And then of course, things like KPIs and other reporting that you can put on dashboards. We have highlighted here the top right of the screen where you can personalize your dashboard. For both end users and admins, go in and explore what you can personalize. There's all sorts of different portlets you can add here to make your dashboard better and improved. And also think about the ability to publish custom dashboards to different roles. As I mentioned earlier, try to standardize some of these dashboards for your end users based on their role, if you can. Okay, sandbox management. So we have kind of a what, a who, and a why here. So the what is, what is a sandbox? So it's an environment for testing, right? Testing config and new developments prior to deploying them to production. And this applies not only during implementation, right? You might build your system out in sandbox during your implementation and then deploy it to production prior to cutover. But this is really ongoing. Your sandbox can always be the place where you're testing out configurations, new customizations, anything technical, right? Sandbox is the place to do that stuff. The who here is the NetSuite admin. They should be the one overseeing the sandbox, maintaining that sandbox environment, and understanding what it's being used for, right? And how we need to use it. And then the third element here is the why. Why sandbox? Why manage it in this way? And it's really just ultimately because it minimizes risk associated with system change. We want to make sure that we're testing functionality out before it's ever deployed to avoid, unwanted interruptions to business processes. That's where sandbox becomes really important. What it also does on the proactive side of things is it promotes innovations. Perhaps it's a place where you test out new processes or new configuration or customizations that can help out your end users. So a couple notes on the sandbox there. As far as sandbox management goes, a couple of screenshots here and a couple notes, just kind of pro tips here, if you will, on sandbox management. So on the left side here, we all know if you go into a sandbox environment, you do have your sandbox kind of icon or logo identifier, that orange sandbox lettering that's always in the environment. I wanted to call out a couple of other tips here. If you are navigating frequently, especially as an admin between production and sandbox environments, consider a couple of things. One could be just changing the appearance of your sandbox environment. You'll see here in this sandbox, I've changed my color scheme to a purple. That is, highly differing from my production environment. And it might sound a little silly or obvious, but it really can make sure that you're operating in the right environment at the right times, especially if you're flipping back and forth often as an admin. So consider changing those color schemes. Another pro tip here, in sandbox environments, we'll often change the company name and the company information, just because it's really not going to be utilized anywhere, right, outside of sandbox. Put a couple asterisks on there. Like this one has, a couple asterisks and an SB1. And when I'm navigating between environments, it's really easy for me to know if I'm going into sandbox or production. And then finally, sandbox refreshes, right? So the admin should be monitoring the sandbox accounts page and understanding when refreshes have occurred, how many refreshes you have left. Typically, when you purchase NetSuite licenses, you'll have a set amount, such as 36 for this environment. And so just monitoring, how often refreshes are happening. We want refreshes to happen with intention, not randomly. And it's especially important for refreshes to happen, knowing, that you're not going to overwrite anything in your sandbox environment that's in flight or currently being worked on. And it's really on the admin to keep tabs on that and make sure the refreshes are happening at the right times. You can also come to that sandbox account screen just to see your refresh status, right? Has it been completed? When was it requested? Just updates there. Final note on key functions here is system health and performance. Want to make sure that the system is performing at a high level. And there's a couple different ways a NetSuite admin can measure the performance of NetSuite. And we'll talk about a couple of actual tools you can use to get some really kind of granular data on system performance later in our presentation. But system health and performance is something that the admin should definitely be considering. Things here like not over customizing or over scripting certain records is a good thought, right? We don't want to do anything to the system that will start to degrade processing power or performance and things of that nature. So another key function here, just monitoring health and performance of the system. Okay, I have about 5-ish minutes left, maybe a couple minutes over for my section here. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is issue management. Let's talk about the issue management process, ticket capture, and then some ticketing systems we've seen in the past as well. So an issue management overview. Really, any organization should have a dedicated process for how you're managing your issues, right? How are they logged? How are they tracked? And we often want to point out that the NetSuite admin doesn't necessarily need to be that first point of contact when issues arise. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. There should be levels to your issue management process so that issues can be resolved, including the right parties and individuals, not wasting people's time. And those different levels should align to the complexity and the severity of issues, and can also help prioritize issues as well. And just overall, yeah, having that organized structure just helps the admin track and be efficient in addressing problems that are arising from end users or functionally in the system. It's really important to stay organized and keep the system on track. Just as an example here, this is not intended to be, this is your best practice example on how to set up your issue management process. This is simply an example to illustrate different levels that you may include in your issue management process as an admin. You want to define this thoroughly and make it available for end users. So they know where to go and how to either, self-resolve or access the right resources at the right times when they need to. So example here, level 1 would be, help desk. What we mean by that is kind of self-sufficient problem solving, right? Suite answers, the help center, whatever a user can do on their own without accessing or without introducing, other parties or people into the situation to try to self-resolve. Beyond that, internal communication with super users or power users. You might have some power users in different areas of the business that are intimately familiar with the process, maybe because they were involved in the implementation. Access those resources first before things get too formalized and the NetSuite admin has to step in. And of course, this can vary depending on the size of your business, but there's just suggestions here. Our level 2 example here would actually be engaging, a support team or your NetSuite admin. So that's just illustrating the different levels you might have that deal with issues kind of in tiers, right? And then your level 3 example here on the right is vendor support. So when your power users and your admin both can't resolve an issue in the system, you have that level 3, right? Tap into your NetSuite support resources, or if it's a third-party application, have that support line that you can call or that individual you can reach out to get help when the internal teams are simply stuck. This is an example of a issue management detail. And again, the point of this slide is not to illustrate what any single issue management process should look like. It's just simply to illustrate that it should be documented, right? The issue management process should be outlined. And NetSuite admin can do this in any process builder, whether it be Visio or a similar platform. But build this out and provide it to your end users. It should be well defined so that you know exactly how issues will be addressed and resolved when they come about. Couple more slides here. So capturing issues and tickets. We often see organizations utilize, true ticket management software, but this could be also something as simple as real-time spreadsheets. Not recommended to use, Excel. I think Google Sheets could be okay. Smartsheet could be another great option. If you're not, procuring a true ticket management tool, at least having a real-time spreadsheet that captures tickets and attributes that people can, access and the admin can see in real time is a must for maintaining NetSuite environment. Tracking in an effective manner allows for quick resolution. On the right side here, you'll see some typical ticket details. This really helps route issues for admins, right? They should know the date of the issue, who submitted it. They should understand the status. Is this a new issue? Does it need to be escalated? Has it been closed out? They should understand the issue types. So is this issue in relation to data, or is an integration broken, right? Systems impacted? Is this just a NetSuite issue, or does it have to do with the Salesforce instance that we have integrated? So good visibility there for the admin. And then a couple more here, which business process it might relate to, the priority level of the issue. Prioritization is key for, time management and the admin using their time wisely, issue description, etc. So all good things to think about. And, categorization can help kind of assess overall health of the business as well, right? If you have a log of tickets coming in for a month and 70% of them were related to your procure to pay process area, perhaps it's time to evaluate that work stream and the processes related. So yeah, just another way to kind of analyze the health of your business in different areas. Okay, I'm coming up right on my time. We wanted to give a break here. Sample ticket management solutions mentioned here. We see these used across a lot of our client base. Again, really depends on the amount of users you have, size of the organization, but just wanted to provide some examples of effective ticket management tools. We in our managed services offering, we actually use Freshdesk to help capture tickets from our clients that utilize our managed services. So think about these different solutions when you're establishing that issue management process. I apologize. I still don't have, I can't hear. So I'm going to just assume we're good to take a break. Audrey and I thought, we're going through a lot of slides here and we wanted to give everyone a quick breather to stretch their legs, get some water, whatever it is. So we're going to take a quick break here. And we'll be back for the second half of the presentation.
Okay, great. All right. So, welcome back, everybody. Do you need to do a poll before we start, or you're good?
No, we're good for now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, awesome. So thanks everybody for sticking around for the second half. So during the first half of the presentation, Brian really focused on taking a bird's eye view of the role and how to think about it strategically and on how to maximize your role as an admin and continue to focus on that broader scope of the environment, because we often see so many clients come to us with optimization enhancements, new implementations, and the system has kind of got out of control because there's such a narrow focus on one request. And so it's so important as an administrator that you kind of take that responsibility of looking at that big picture and keeping that in mind and the scope of the long term of the tool so that you can really focus on having the company use this ERP in the long term. We all know NetSuite's not a cheap license, implementation costs are expensive, and so you really want to maximize all of that investment into having a system that can support users and be successful for many years to come. And so with a lot of that, we really just wanted to kind of start with that. And then I'll go into a little bit more detail on more of those specific things that you guys can leverage. And then we're going to kick it off here with monitoring your instance. And so this is really focusing on being proactive. So we've talked about a couple of ways already that we're being proactive and reactive. And so issue management comes technically like afterwards if someone raises an issue through a ticket. And so we want to give you guys some tips on how you can monitor that instance using dashboards, save searches, and then just using like helpful audit tools within NetSuite. And then also knowing when it's time to call for backup. And so as an administrator, we know all skill sets kind of have their max capacity there. And so knowing when you need to raise the issue to someone else who can support you. So with that, we talked about dashboards and really focused kind of on users. And I'm sure many of you have helped users develop dashboards, come up with things, but maybe haven't thought about using it for yourself. And so similar how the end users use it, you guys can use it to help track tasks, action items, and then to identify issues before they even come about. So really focusing on setting up a reminder that an end user leverages also, so that when they say, oh, this one's not working, or they're seeing an issue, you already have that in there and you can help them navigate their issue that's coming up. You can also leverage building those save searches and reminders to help identify things that can and likely will go wrong within your NetSuite environment. So for example, you could set up something to send a note or a reminder if there's missing fields on a specific record. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see NetSuite projects without end date. And so this is actually out of Bridgepoint's NetSuite instance. We leverage it. And this is a reminder for all our projects we're task tracking to say, do we have an end date? And so if we don't, we know we need to go in there and update those records. And so sometimes with that data integrity, you see downstream effects to missing data. So that's a quick tool to set yourselves up and track those things before it's too late and you're reactive to something that's missing later. You can also do this with script errors, workflow anomalies, many various things that you can build throughout searches. And so, yeah, so with all of this, we're saying be proactive, leverage these reminders to come through before the tickets are addressed. And then, so on those save searches, a little bit more detail here. Again, the goal of this presentation wasn't to walk you through and teach you everything, but we did want to give some quick insights into ways you can do it, and definitely reach out if you have additional questions on the functionality here. But one way to identify those issues is by setting up an email. And so you can create that save search and put on an email to send alerts, and you can build criteria of what to do. And so within the message, you can say like, down in the screenshot, it shows like a specific invoice number. You can build that into it based on the record. And then you can also check that include view record link and that so it embeds it identical within the email, so you can link to it and get to it easily. So you could set these up to send to you to make sure that you are knowing kind of what's going on in the system without having to be in there all the time. So just a quick alert to give yourself. All right, and then auditing of NetSuite, looking at controls. As Brian mentioned, in my previous life, I was an auditor in public accounting. And so I do know that I asked for these things, and you guys probably get asked by your accounting teams when they come in. And so you guys can definitely be helpful to those accounting teams of knowing where to find the information that the auditors are looking for, especially when it comes to like system deletions, overrides, segregation of duties, anything like that. And so here are quick few items that you guys can leverage to help with that auditing of your NetSuite environment. So transaction numbering audit log. This provides a complete list of every internal transaction number, including the numbers that were assigned to a standard or a custom transaction that have been deleted or failed to be created. Quick sweet answer reference here if you guys want to write that down. And then these save searches are available on the audit trail. And then another one, so that transaction audit trail, this produces a report that provides a detailed history of all your transactions entered into NetSuite. And so the audit trail provides information about the transaction, who entered it, and when the transaction was created or modified. Another big question that comes from auditors on who entered it, was this approved, whose hands were on it last, things like that. So that's definitely a good one to know about and to leverage. Another one here is audit trail for features and preferences. So sometimes you may not be the only admin, or someone has more permissions to certain things and you guys want to track that. And so one piece is preferences. And so this one is a unique one that's not always known by people. And so when you go on that accounting preferences, you can click on more in that audit trail and you can see any of the changes. Sometimes it's, oh, who changed that? We don't know, or did they have a reason for changing it? So it's also a quick look back to see what has happened in the previous environment. Maybe you're a new admin coming in and taking over. You want to see when things were modified and things like that. So helpful to kind of see changes and features. And then by navigating to this, audit trail admins can see a log of all the changes and preferences just throughout the whole account. Another one is sent email list. So if you guys have scheduled like automated emails from the system, coming through, this is super helpful. You can see all of the outgoing emails sent from the account. So you can view an email that was delivered successfully, as well as emails that were not delivered. So it'll capture all those emails, including like the approval related ones to your users, as well as external, like on an invoice or purchase order emails that you send directly out of NetSuite. So all of that would be included in there. And then another place you can just look at those undelivered emails. So as an administrator, you could monitor this, see if there's maybe some bad master data that needs to be updated, employees that maybe got missed on being inactivated if they're no longer with the company or they don't have that email anymore. So just some quick things that you guys can look at and make sure the system's operating as intended. And then one other piece is billing information. So this is a super good thing for you all to track and look at and really get to know what your environment entails. So knowing kind of what you guys purchased, this is the easiest way to go find those. And so this will be all your billing components. And one big item that many administrators think their function is around user access and roles. And so here you can monitor the number of licensed users when you're getting close. Maybe have a conversation with leadership saying, hey, are we going to grow the company anymore? I think we need to think about adding licenses. So you don't have to do that after you've hired someone. So that's not a holdup. So being proactive and maintaining and monitoring how many users you have in the system today. Also looking at, are there any users that aren't actually using it that we could get rid of? And so going that route. And then useful items for billing information as well. So the cabinet size, you can look at the amount of storage available, tracking the number of monthly transactions, and then subsidiary account, country limit, and then sandbox refresh. So if you do have a sandbox, you can see what the number of sandboxes you've done. There's another spot you can grab it too, to show kind of how many you've refreshed. We don't see many clients getting to the maximum, but do strategically think about them, kind of updating once there's newer data, newer functionality, getting that so you don't just do it for like a one-time, someone created a new invoice and you want to just push that to Sandbox. So just some other features there to really support you guys and your accounting teams as they go through those audits, and also just understanding kind of permissions and tracking in the background. All right, and then knowing when it's time for more help. And so as an administrator, sometimes you guys can get bogged down with tons of tickets or initiatives, and it's important for that organization to know, are you guys at the tipping point? You've grown so much, one admin was enough, now you need two. Or do you need kind of a grouped model of you have an administrator, but you also go out to another partner to assist you in some of those more complex tickets and enhancements that the team's looking for. So here are just a few categories of key signs that could indicate when it's the right time to move forward for additional support. So complexity of business processes. So are you guys growing? Are you acquiring? Did you do a transformational change that really is making you take a step back and look at the company of, do we need to adjust our processes to adapt to a new line of business, to a new entity, what have you? So that's one big thing there. And then sometimes the administrator has a limited knowledge of a particular business process that's needing to be implemented. So if you're in an industry with inventory and you're not familiar with the accounting associated with that, and you just really need to seek out additional support to help, that would be a time to do that. Limited bandwidth, so time, we can't create as much time as we want in the world in the day. They're all full of many things. And so just once you guys hit that bandwidth and can't track tickets, you kind of see time going behind. I would say that's a time to look into that. If you see issue volume increasing, maybe it's looking at, do we have an issue with the system? Just like Brian mentioned before, if we have the procure to pay issues constantly coming up, it's like, is there a specific volume that we're seeing in those tickets, or just in general, and maybe we need an outside party to come in and look. And then sometimes users may need more advanced training and enablement beyond what the administrator's availability has to dedicate that time. In the middle here, specialized or technical expertise. So NetSuite has massive capabilities when it comes to customization. So you could have suite scripts, workflows, other custom records in the system that you may not have that technical expertise, which is perfectly okay. It's just kind of knowing that there is additional support out there to help with those. So all of that development and scripting, and then any new integrations also could be a time if it's a more complex integration to reach out for more help. And then large initiatives. So as part of your role as an admin, that we suggest is really thinking of a path forward on how you guys can continue to improve the system, where it's going for the future. And so if you're planning that large initiative, you have an acquisition coming in, that could be a time that you guys seek out additional parties to support that, as well as new service lines. And then strategic guidance. So administrators are focused on day-to-day activities and sometimes not able to participate in those strategic directions of the company. And so that could be a stance of looking for a partner to help with more of that business process and that industry knowledge for across the organization to really help. So with that, I have a quick sample of a service structure. So this is something Bridgepoint offers. So we kind of just grabbed how we have it, but a lot of partners do similar items here. And so it would be kind of including NetSuite in scope for all those modules, and then that partner working with those third parties. And this is where maintaining that third party support is so important, because you can work with both like a Concur or an Avalara, and then working on that integration with how it connects with NetSuite. So really maintaining all those relationships, because it is a team effort with everything that's combined in a more robust NetSuite system. And so oftentimes partners are providing services for maintenance, those minor enhancements, releases. So Corey's going to cover the release today. And so that could be something a partner could help you guys with, of regression testing, especially when it comes to those more scripted records, scripting workflows, pieces like that. And then just continuing to manage the project on an ongoing basis. So that's just a quick example of kind of when you would seek help, what could be offered for additional support. And then again, like that ticketing system here in that middle, that level 1 is all of you as super users or admins. And then just looking for, all right, do we need to go to level 2 and 3 to get additional support? So we don't let the issues get out of hand, and we're helping users complete their day-to-day tasks and not affect the business. So that's just another piece there. So
Audrey, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. I think this is a good breaking point for another polling question.
Yep.
So for CPE credits, I'll pop up another polling question here. I'll launch it right now. CPE polling question is up. About 20 seconds left for the polling question. All right, last chance for the polling question. And we'll go ahead and end the poll now.
awesome. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
All righty. So next up, want to talk about continuous learning and professional development. So some of this might be stuff you already know, but we wanted to make sure we touched on it. So talking about the NetSuite releases, trainings, and then also ways you can advance your skill set. So NetSuite releases, so on your NetSuite homepage, you can reschedule your release. So keep an eye out for these and know if it's at a critical time. So if this is scheduled for right at month-end close, strongly suggest changing that up. If you guys are deploying something new or doing something else, like going through another implementation, through our implementations, we always check that out. We don't want that to be around a go live. And so you can definitely modify that within restrictions. Most times NetSuite only lets you go up, push it out about a month from their upgrade date that they set. But when you go to click on the button to change it, it won't let you click a date longer than they let you. So definitely leverage that. And then opt in to get a release preview account. So that's where you can do all your testing of the elements I'll touch on here in a moment. But just a few key things to pay attention to every time you see a new release. This is going to be on your homepage for access. So release notes, you can navigate to the help center, and within there, you're going to see a release notes sections within the table of contents. And so here it'll show the release numbers. So there's on the screenshot, there's a couple of them. And then it also shows how to prepare for the testing and suggested plans. And so definitely leverage the help center for what NetSuite's already put out there. That'll definitely help you guys get started. And then here's some suggestions on how you could produce your testing plan. So review those release notes and then update your sandbox or get that release preview account. Make sure everything's up to date. Test critical workflows and then do some regression testing. Definitely involve those super users to help you maybe define a certain group of people that are dedicated to making sure their processes can be completed with the new release. Modify any changes necessary, and then with those changes, make sure you document those updates so that's captured. And then develop a communication plan of when it's going to happen, any changes that you know that could impact certain people. So make sure they're aware of any hiccups that could come about after that release is initiated. Take that opportunity to do any new trainings based on any updates, if it was anything major, or if there's just a few minor things to call out, but just making sure your team's aware. And then plan kind of a contingency plan if a new release could cause significant issues, but also this is why we suggest not doing it at a critical month-end time. If you don't test anything, or if you don't want to test anything, our suggestion to you is really focus on workflows, integrations, and scripts. Like those are the three big ones that could potentially fail with a release. Those are your high risk items. So really focus on those ones. If you don't do anything else, really good to test all scenarios, but really focus on those three customizations. All right, another place for kind of learning development is Suite Ideas. So for those of you who maybe haven't heard of this, this is where you can submit things that you think NetSuite should be capable of. So if there's something that it's a limitation within the system, you can suggest an idea and then people can go in and vote for it. And then you can also go look if other people had ideas and you can vote on those. The more votes, the better chance NetSuite will do it. I don't work for NetSuite, don't know if they'll actually do it, but as the more we get out there, the more people participate, we can definitely hope for some of those advancements within the system. The Learning Center, so if you have an LCS pass, you have access to NetSuite's videos that they have recorded around that native functionality. So for admins, there's definitely ones directed towards you, so you can kind of filter in that Learning Center portal to focus on just your role specifically. So left-hand side, it shows a checkbox on that administrator role. You also can provide suggestions to users. So if you know an AR accountant or that AR role, you could say, hey, here's 3 NetSuite training videos that I think could be helpful for you to better understand the capabilities for your role. And then you can also use it for onboarding. So if you have a new person coming onto the team, you can start them out by looking at certain videos, and that'll take time off your plate of having to sit on the call with a user and walk them through the system. So leveraging the Learning Center can definitely give a backing to get that user up to speed. As an admin of the LCS, you can also track user training completion. So if you do have a new person onboarding and you guys have a required training you want them to do, that would be where you could track that. And then there is videos and a training series to help you guys prepare for a certification called the NetSuite Administrator. So definitely capabilities there to advance and have that accreditation. Another way to learn more is using NetSuite Live training. So with that LCS pass, if you sign up, you could get some of those live trainings. They also put those into the Learning Center after they've been posted. So if you can't make them, there's definitely opportunities for that. And then going to Suite World as well, definitely see new products coming up the pipeline. Just another way to learn more about NetSuite. And then a quick plug for this team. So Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group, a great forum to go into. You got a ton of people who know NetSuite willing to support. So you can do the forums, blogs, webinars, and then also just these meetings. So attending these meetings, you can learn more. Every quarter, it's a different topic. Definitely useful information. Our group in Denver definitely attends these and learns a ton as well from others. So great opportunity to advance your NetSuite skills. And then just overall professional development. So kind of stepping outside of the NetSuite specific trainings, but thinking about soft skill development. So as a administrator, are there ways that you can improve your communication, your problem solving, your organization, leadership? And so, I mean, from online trainings to YouTube, to blogs, to white papers, there's all sorts of things that you can seek out, books to advance that soft skill development, just to better support your team and communicate with them. You can also shadow users to further develop your understanding of company processes. So some companies may be way more complex. And so as an administrator, maybe you don't come from that background. And so it could be useful for you to shadow them and really understand the what, the why of what they're doing. And that can help you to better support the team. And then project management skills, that's a huge thing as an administrator, especially when it comes to all the ticketing, or if you're part of the implementation and supporting that, any optimization or enhancement work, it's just a really good tool that you could definitely look at advancing. And then specialized training for your industry. So again, kind of like following or shadowing another user on the business processes, you could also look at more of the industry specific for your company. And so even just understanding the terminology could be helpful. So if you had information on that and getting up to speed on the accounting side of it, or the terminology, would be definitely a way to enhance those skills to support the team. And then last one would be vendor specific. So looking into those third-party apps and making sure you understand how they're working and connecting with NetSuite. So if you have a Concur, an Expensify, an Avalara, anything like that, really understanding that involvement and knowing more about how that application works will help you develop professionally. Alrighty, now for some fun stuff. So we've put together a few tips and tricks that we think would be useful for you all to learn, leverage. And so I'll jump in to kind of some bundles and suite apps. We also will talk about some Chrome extensions and then other ways specifically within NetSuite that you can support some users. So what are ways that you can find efficiencies with bundles and suite apps? So you can solve via the Suite Bundler or actually the Suite App Marketplace. So a couple different places that some of these examples could be in that I'm going to go over. So for performance, Brian touched on health and performance earlier in the presentation, and NetSuite does have a suite app called APM, Application Performance Management. And so what this does is it's a health dashboard to monitor issues that may affect your performance of your record loads, scripts, save searches, integrations, any processors. And so there's dedicated tools for each type of issue to view and visualize and really monitor that performance with metrics and logs. So you can identify bottlenecks and other issues that are happening. It's really just one convenient page to give you guys access to multiple things going on in the system. And so we definitely see clients leverage this when they are a more robust system. And so if you have a ton of integrations, some customization, it's helpful to understand maybe what type of records are behaving slower than others. So you could look at an invoice versus a sales order versus a customer record. And that can definitely help you to raise a ticket up to NetSuite and say, hey, our system's performing really slow. I don't think it's us. There's something wrong. These are the times it's taking to load. Other quick tip is when you load a record, if you double click on the NetSuite icon, it'll show the seconds it takes to load that record. So some useful things to use when you're raising tickets to NetSuite to say our system is not operating and you'd like them to take a look. For those of you with one world accounts, so if you have an environment with multiple subsidiaries, Subsidiary Navigator is a great bundle to help allow the account exec to have the ability to conveniently switch through subsidiaries from the portlet. And so lists, searches, reports, all those portlets and other records can just be filtered to the subsidiary when you click on the node. So definitely easy ways to shift between when you're looking at that. A couple free bundles that I think are real good quick wins. They're simple and easy to set up and provide great benefits. So file drag and drop, this allows you to go from an outside location, your desktop, and drag in a file and attach it to that record. And then it'll be on that communications file sub-tab within that record of the page you drug that file on. And then sticky notes, just like they are, if you have a paper copy, you can write notes to someone, you can write a note to yourself. Different colors allow you to prioritize differently. And then if you tag someone on it or send it to them, it can send them an email. And when they open that page or that record, they can see this note. So this is really things that maybe you don't necessarily need to have in like the communications note section, but it can be just quick notes back and forth of, hey, can you look at my memo? Does this sound okay? Or something like that of, can you just look at this piece? Those are super useful things to communicate with your team members by just tossing a sticky note on a record. All right, and then we talked about dashboards, but just calling out that dashboard tiles is a bundle. If you don't already have it installed, definitely one we recommend to help you create those dashboards with tiles that display those critical KPIs, visual layouts, images, alerts, all of those things to help support the ease of viewing the data. All right, so a couple suite apps that do have a cost associated, but we wanted to call them out because for the auditing aspect that I talked about earlier, these are a couple other tools that enhance even more of the capabilities that you can get from those audit trails in NetSuite. So one of those is StrongPoint. So it's a SOX compliant audit prep. Really helps with segregation of duties management, automatic documentation, impact analysis, looking at change management, environment comparison. Also can look at master data and financial controls. Another similar system or application would be FastPath. So similar to StrongPoint, accessing reviews, audit trails, security, segregation of duties. So a couple systems that I encourage you guys to look into if you do feel that you need more monitoring capabilities than what NetSuite offers, especially for public companies. See a lot more value in this. All right, and then outside of the pre-built bundles, you guys are also able to create your own bundles. So if you create a custom form or anything within your system and you want to take that from Sandbox over to production, you can create your own bundle through Suite Bundler, identify kind of the basic definitions. You'll have to fill out a few things and select the objects, and then you can install that bundle into your production environment. So nice way to not have to redo a ton of work and move that over after it's been tested in Sandbox. And then similar to bundling is copy to account. So it copies a custom object between your accounts. So you can use copy to account to select a target account, and you can pick the dependencies, the record to include, and then you can preview before you deploy that custom record that you created. And it can copy one custom object, including dependencies and instances at one time. It's available from your production, development, or Sandbox environments of which you have administrative access. Alrighty, and then we just wanted to make one call out to the next evolution, which is Suite Cloud Development Framework, SDF. So what I just described as Suite Bundler, NetSuite has told us they are going to deprecate. They've said that for other things and don't really give a deadline of when they're going to do that, but we just wanted to call out that SDF is the future of where they see kind of movement between accounts. And so what SDF is it provides a foundation for structured development processes and supports familiar development concepts and patterns. So you use this to create a project component or customizations within your environments. And it is file-based with XML definitions that can contain those custom records, forms, workflows, etc. So this is a little more technical. And so we recommend, if this is kind of a path you want to go instead of bundling, that you reach out to a partner to help you guys with more of that technical developer aspect. So I'll highlight a couple key differences between SDF and bundles. So it's fully integrated with IDE and it's managed outside of your NetSuite account. And then Project Live is a set of XML files. The con here is that you have to have a stable internet connection required to download and upload that to and from NetSuite. Some objects are not supported, so we hope that it continues to expand, but you can check out Suite Answers, the one noted here on the screen, for a full list of those comparisons between all of them. And then again, just to call out that you may need technical skills to troubleshoot development issues and help support the overall SDF process.
Audrey, I'm going to go ahead and pop up another polling question here real quick.
That works.
So here's our polling question for CPE credits. Should be live now. About 30 seconds left on the polling question. All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll. And we'll turn it back over to you, Audrey.
Thank you. All right, next up, we want to give some insights into ways you can navigate NetSuite more easily with Chrome extensions. So given it's Chrome, you have to use Google Chrome as your browser. But there are some extensions out there that make life a little bit easier that I'm going to overview here today. So NetSuite Advanced Field Help. So the purpose of this one is it extends the NetSuite field help and adds relevant information to improve your productivity. So as soon as you click on a field, it'll show up the normal field help, but then there's an extension below it. And this will show you the internal ID of the options in that selection path. So helpful to get that. And then it also adds a link to the custom field so you can go right towards there. So Super helpful. Just a little bit more information when you're clicking on that field help if you have this extension enabled. And to find all these extensions, all you have to do is Google Chrome extensions and search these names, and you'll be able to find them and install them on your computer. Next one is NetSuite Field Finder. This one I use often and it's super helpful. So when you're creating a save search, when you click on the drop down to show all the fields that you could select from, it has up at the top the different types of fields. So a standard, a custom, or a related field. So if you're trying to connect a PO and a bill, you can look at just those related records to be able to pull in fields for that. In that second column, it also shows the field ID. And so sometimes names are super similar. And so it's easier to know if it's the specific field you want based on the field ID. So definitely helpful there. And then a plug, if you're creating custom fields, definitely make the IDs relevant and applicable so that it's easier to leverage those IDs. The next one is NetSuite Field Explorer. So this helps you examine the fields in a NetSuite record. So when you're on that record, you can click the extension and it'll pull up a page like I'm showing on the screen here, and you can see what the result is by the different field names. So another easy way to check out the data from a different perspective. Link clump. So this one allows you to open or bookmark multiple links at the same time. So you kind of have to create what your like activation is on how you do it. So whether it's like Control Shift and a number or whatever, and then you can select multiple items here. So on the right, you see I'm looking at various documents, and to view them, I highlight it and it'll open up all those automatically in 3 new tabs. So if you need to kind of pull up a ton of things, you're looking at a search and you want to open up 10 items, you can just grab that link clump and it'll open up all those tabs to view those separate transactions or records. Another one is NetSuite Portlet Refresher. So this one's pretty simple, just refreshes the portlets in your NetSuite dashboard automatically every time you log in or access your NetSuite homepage. So less clicks, just a quick way to be able to refresh those portlets. And then scripted records. So this one, it helps you see the customizations deployed to the record. So when you initiate that Chrome extension, it'll pull up all of the different scripts that have been deployed. And then you can see here in the screenshot to show if it's deployed and released. So another way to kind of track what's on your record to dig into, especially if you have issues, you know, kind of what's running on what records. All right, so those are some cool Chrome extensions. Definitely encourage you all to go check those out. They make just your everyday day-to-day activities in NetSuite just a little bit easier. All right, so jumping into tips to support your users to kind of wrap here. So finding efficiencies to support your users can be through these 4 items. So NetSuite org chart. If you can document the structure of your users, your super users, as well as just mapping out the roles for approval workflows or any process areas to really help your users know how the system works and where to go. So if they're having issues, do they know what super user to contact? So it's just a quick resource for them to have so they don't have to reach out to you as a NetSuite administrator. Another one is functional documentation. So we suggest developing these for custom solutions. If your implementation partner did not already produce these, we highly suggest you try to document this. And so what it is it's documenting the more of the functional piece behind a technical item. So if you have workflows or scripts in your system, having documentation of why that customization was needed and what it does, anything to call out on how to maintain it, is super important to have there. And so we as an implementation partner definitely do that in ours, and it's a deliverable on our projects. And then we often hand that over to a managed service provider, and it's helpful for them doing tickets to understand what the customization is, why it was developed, and everything behind it. So definitely helpful there. And then design documentation. This is more so on the process flow of your processes. So it might even be outside of NetSuite. So where does an opportunity get captured? When does it come into NetSuite? Where does it go from there? Really documenting a full end-to-end process for areas so that you guys are all aligned on the process. And that'll also help you maintain that overall understanding of everything going on. So when you get a request for a change, you guys can refer back to that and know how to better solution a new issue and how it can work with the process that's already been defined. And then field help. So we often see accounts come in after someone's been implemented and there's a ton of custom fields, but there's no information of what the field's for, why it's on the form. And so you guys, when you create a custom field, we highly suggest documenting in the field help so that the user can know exactly what that field is for. And then there's a better chance they're going to use it based on that information. So super helpful just to kind of document those things so users have those references before going to you for questions. Another piece to help support your users is understanding the different step preferences that a user can have. And so if you know them, you can also communicate these out to your users or leverage them yourself. So I'm just going to call out a couple. There's tons of them. So just encourage you to go dig around in there, click on the field, definitely leverage Suite Answers to get more information. But in the general tab, showing internal IDs, that's a checkbox that you can do. And so that would show up on all your safe searches, your reports, your lists to show that internal ID, as well as warnings in the transactions sub-tab. So looking at duplicate numbers, customer credit limit handling. So a couple there. And then within the analytics sub-tab, showing lists when only one result. So if this is unchecked, NetSuite will auto load a record when a search yields only one result. Also including inactives in global and quick searches. So if you check this box, it will include those inactives. Sometimes it's helpful as an admin to have that and maybe less for the users. And then global search auto suggest box. So if this is unchecked, uncheck this if you do not want a list of suggested matches to display. For the global search, you can disable that by unchecking that. Couple more here under the reporting tab. This is a big one that I see and that suggests kind of turning, switching it into the different items, the selection options, depending on what your scenario is. So reporting by period is the default for financials only. So that's how your system should come. But let's say you want to see a balance sheet at like the middle of the month, say like March 20th, I want to see what the balance sheet is. If you change this report by period to never, it will now show you a date selection option on that balance sheet report versus you selecting a period. So different ways to leverage those. Definitely encourage you to communicate to users so they know that that preference is available. All right, centers and tabs. So NetSuite natively comes out with the Accounting Center and the Classic Center. And so what that is really what it looks like when you jump into NetSuite. So are you looking at all the same tabs as everyone? It's more so the admin will have that Classic Center, and then more of like an AR accountant or clerk might have the Accounting Center because it can focus more on like customer specific or vice versa. And so noting that there are a couple of those, and then you can also create a custom center. So what all the tabs show at the top. So then your center tabs are those. So example, reports, documents, lists, that's from the Classic Center. And then beyond that, if you hover over, so in the screenshot, customization is the tab. Everything below that is the category. And then the next one would be the page or the link that gets you actually to the record. And so with this, you guys can make custom categories and add links to be able to support users. And so one place we often suggest this is for customized reports. So for your team, if you guys have, say, 10 reports that the team should always leverage, you can make a custom tab shown here on the right. And you could call it your company name. And then from there, you can link all those pages directly to their specific reports. And then on the left side is showing that you're just selecting each of those specific reports to link in. So it's just a search, finding those and adding it. Quick and easy thing to make navigation for the user much easier. All right, and then CSV imports, one thing here is it's super helpful if you guys take the time to build out for the team imports for repeated processes. So if the team is constantly importing invoices, it's super helpful to create one standard template in as a CSV template, as well as within NetSuite the import, so that users can continually use the same one. That helps eliminate errors if everything's already set for them. And you also have the ability to set defaults. So if you made something specific, let's say like a payroll journal entry, you could default to certain segments you have in the system, a location, or if it's like a corporate cost, or if you have a specific checkbox saying that this is a payroll journal, things like that that you can set so that the data doesn't get missed on import by team members. And then one thing we see a lot when we navigate in system is there's tons of new ones that people do, and they tend to do like a new save as and run. So they create a new copy. So just telling them that all they have to do is click run, no need to save as their own copy. And then couple call outs in the screenshot. You can create those save imports with add or update, so you don't have to have different ones depending on what you're doing. And then you can also use multi-threading. Note that you have to have Suite Cloud Plus. This is an add-on, so in company information, you can go check that out to see if you have that capability. But what this allows it to do is it use multiple threads, so it may not put your transactions in the CSV in order, but it'll get them in quicker by putting them in various orders and using multiple threads. And then you can also leverage different queues. So depending on how many queues you have, putting the imports in different queues if people are doing things at the same time, it just helps to expedite that process. And then global search. So quick search tips here. Definitely using between 3 and 32 characters. 32 is a lot, but using at least 3 will, if you do less than 3, it may not return results. And then over 32, it just ignores every character after that. So no need to continue to type there. It's going to ignore it anyway. Use some search prefixes. There's a full list using the Suite Answer to help you navigate what you can start those prefixes at to focus your record or transaction type you're looking for. You can search for multiple strings at a time using an OR separator. So if you don't know how to spell something, it could be max, max, or max, as in this example here. So have to do uppercase of that OR, but then it would pull in those search results. Leverage your %sign as a wildcard. And then if you don't have that inactive checkbox that we just discussed on, by adding a plus at the end of it, that'll return both active and inactive results. And then you can also use the quick search in your homepage portlet. And so you could search for an item, but specifically call out the type of record that you're trying to search for. All right. So with that, just going to really wrap us up. I know we covered a ton of content today, and we hope you take away some high-level strategy items to focusing on maximizing your investment in the software, as well as you as yourself, an administrator. So hopefully you took more of things you can bring back to the company for your role, and then continue to promote standardization and efficiencies for users, as well as these value add activities outside of the day-to-day user support, accessing or providing new roles and permissions. And then thinking about documentation that your company has and see if there's any way that you can improve or create or give advice on things that you guys could start to look at or do differently. And then focus on prioritizing your tickets, exhibiting curiosity when a user requests new functionality, really understanding the requirement and determine the best solution with all processes and configuration in consideration. Definitely leverage partners to support or this user group if you have additional questions on ways to do things better. And then just for yourselves to look at opportunities to advance your skill set in terms of helping the application as well as your professional development in your career. And then hopefully some of these tips and trips, you guys at least have 1 or 2 to take away to help make your life a little more efficient and easier in yours. So on behalf of Brian and I and Bridgepoint, we really appreciate you guys being engaged and taking the time with us here today. I know it was a ton of content in a couple hours, but we hope you got a lot of good information on it, and reach out. Our contact information is here on the slide if you have any questions. And then Corey, you want to do one more poll?
Yep, we got one more polling question. Thank you for that. So I'm going to launch the last polling question right now. Really great presentation, Audrey and Brian. Thank you so much for taking the time to put this together and share your expertise with the group. This was really, really great information. And just in case you didn't hear before, all of our meetings are recorded and the slides are also available. We post them on our website, rmnsug.org/posts. And we'll announce on our LinkedIn forum once those are posted this meeting. It'll take about a week or so for us to process that and get it posted on our website. So the last polling question is open. We have about 30 seconds left. Okay. That was an accidental unmute, I think. So we'll just wait another 10-15 seconds here for this last polling question. You do have to do all of the polling questions to get the CPE credits. So if you have CPE credit aspirations, answer that last polling question. And then we'll move into our 2024.1 highlights. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll at this point. That'll be the last question for CPE credits. Okay, again, thank you, Audrey and Brian. I'm going to go ahead and take over from here, and we are going to talk about 2024.1 highlights. I'll go ahead and get my slideshow showing here, and then share my screen. Okay, so again, I'm Corey Anderson. I'm the president of the Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group. I'm also a NetSuite consultant. I am a co-owner of a firm called Stratos ERP Partners. We do NetSuite and Celigo consulting, integrations, implementations, all of that fun stuff. So the 2024.1 highlights, I have to start by saying that I was underwhelmed with what they're coming out with in this particular release. So I scoured the notes and I tried to find things that I thought would apply to a lot of users, to most people. And then I'll highlight just a couple of sections that may apply to specific companies, but I didn't really go into the details on those. So with that said, I'll go ahead and jump in to what I thought were some of the things that would apply to most people. One of the main things that NetSuite is doing is AI, and they're building out AI, and they're putting it in the system, and they're doing all kinds of fun stuff with it. The Text Enhance is one of their first AI-driven initiatives. And so basically, Text Enhance uses generative AI to assist in writing business content in NetSuite. It's designed to create, refine, and adjust content to the appropriate length for various needs. I may have to pause for a moment here. I'm getting over a little bit of a chest thing, and so I'm going to try not to cough while I'm talking to everybody. So the functionality of Text Enhance, leveraging information from the editing page. Text Enhance can generate descriptions for inventory items among other content, tailoring the details and tone according to the usage context, like sales or purchase descriptions. It's enabled by default. its accessibility might be limited based on the account's features, location, and language, and administrators can manage its use. So basically, here's a screenshot of what it might look like. And so in the sales description field, there will be this little option here for the text enhance. And you can click on that and you can click generate. You can say clean up, you can make longer, you can undo. And I think this is a pretty cool feature. Basically what it does is it takes content from that item record and it'll create a description based on like the brand, the part number, any information that's on there already. So that's, I think, a pretty cool update that is going to be rolled out in 2024.1 release. The next one is the favorites feature is available in drop-down lists. So users can mark up to 5 favorite items in customer add multiple and items fields on sales orders, enhancing efficiency by allowing the selection of favorite items directly. I have a screenshot of this here in a second. So to use this feature, you enable it through set preferences general. The favorites are personal to each user's account and role. So if you want to turn this on, you'll go to your preferences, your general preferences, and enable it. So here's just a screenshot of what it would look like. You'll have a little star icon that you can click and it'll save your favorites. So like if you're entering sales orders in the user interface and you're always choosing, the common customers or something like that, you can favorite those. So that's a neat little feature that they have come out with that I think would affect most users. So I know that there's a lot of payment options in NetSuite. There's a lot of third-party payment processors that you can use, but NetSuite's basically putting energy into making their own. So now NetSuite Pay is now available. So NetSuite Pay is a managed suite app, facilitates integrated payment processing, including credit card transactions across various platforms, ensuring PCI compliant data security. The benefits are it provides a comprehensive view of customer transaction history and detailed audit tracking while securing payment card data. It's available for installation post-provisioning by a NetSuite account manager. So what that means is I think it's a free tool that you can use. You do have to sign up with their credit card processor, but it does have to be provisioned to your account. You can't just enable it yourself. And so you would contact your account manager to provision that. Next one is SuiteTax. So SuiteTax is now generally available across all accounts in NetSuite. So previously it was a hidden feature requiring activation. It's now generally available, simplifying the tax management process. Administrators can enable SuiteTax via setup, company enable features, and then tax subtab. It applies account-wide and it cannot be reversed or once enabled. So it's something that you definitely want to, if you have a Sandbox account, enable in your Sandbox account, work through the setup and configuration, make sure that it makes sense for your NetSuite environment. It does include prerequisites for enabling details on records and transactions for migrating to SuiteTax. So if you are using the native tax features, you do have to kind of do a bunch of configuration to move into the SuiteTax functionality. And if you haven't heard about SuiteTax, I recommend checking it out. It's basically NetSuite's solution to kind of a dynamic tax system, kind of like what Avalara might do. And so instead of having to manually import tax codes and amounts, it'll do dynamic tax code automation in the system. So you always have real-time taxes. Ship Central. So Ship Central, basically some enhancements there. I don't know. I know that There are a lot of there's a lot of third-party plugins for shipping systems, and NetSuite is putting a lot of effort into enhancing their built-in shipping options. And I think it's come a long way since they started doing this Ship Central stuff a few years ago. So this release introduces several new capabilities, including insurance addition to a shipment's delivery confirmation, package code viewing for selection, residence shipping indications, ship manifest generation, rate shopping on the NetSuite UI, which is kind of a big deal. Subsidiary specific shipping preferences, FedEx ground, collect third-party billing, Saturday delivery options, and address validation settings. So if you are doing shipping out of NetSuite and you're using a third-party tool, depending upon what it is, you may be able to start using the Ship Central, because I think they're just going to keep iterating on it and making it better over time so that you don't have to have an external system for all of your shipping. The rate shopping in the NetSuite UI is a pretty big deal. So you can rate shop between, post office, FedEx, UPS, whatever, so that you can get kind of like real-time actual package costs before you ship things. So I thought that was pretty cool. If you have the need to do shipping out of NetSuite. So just a few other areas of enhancements to note. I'm not going to talk about these in detail, but there are some very important updates to these. So in manufacturing, CPQ, which is the configure price quote module, warehouse management and inventory management. If you use any of those features in NetSuite, I recommend going and reviewing those sections of the release notes, because there's definitely some important things in there. Again, I didn't include those in these notes because it's really kind of specific to the company, and I think they may not be as widely used as some of the other things that I talked about. So anyway, that's it for my 2024.1 release highlights. Yeah, thanks for listening. And at this point, we'll go ahead and move into our open forum, and we'll let Mike host that for us.
Thank you, Corey. Thanks for the overview. It's always good to see what's coming out in the new release. I can say from our perspective, we saw some SRP bumps come along the way. So I'm curious as to whether anybody else saw that.